rise to support the prohibition of electronic cigarettes, production, manufacture, export, transport, sale, distribution, storage and advertisement bill 2019. So e-cigarettes or ENDS, electronic nicotine delivery systems, are electronic devices that heat a substance which contains nicotine to create vapor for inhalation. So the previous speaker said that the quantities of nicotine in this are not very well decided. So the Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health states that treated nicotine in an e-cigarette is 1.6 times that of a conventional combustible cigarette. So there is a very strong industrial and commercial lobby that has sought to propel the myth and the lie that e-cigarettes are far less harmful than combustible tobacco cigarettes. The fact remains, sir, that treated nicotine which is present in these devices is a carcinogen, which is a tumor promoter, which is responsible for neurodegeneration. It is responsible for anxiety, behavioral and breathing disorders. So I'm unsure of how that claim of being less dangerous can be made. When looking at the net public health effect of e-cigarettes, we must look at three factors, sir. One, their effect on youth. Two, their effect on adult cessation of combustible tobacco products. And three, their inherent toxicity. What is the science behind this is what I want to get to. So one of the greatest problems with the science behind e-cigarettes is that it is highly questionable at best in a certain way. Over 90% of global e-cigarette devices come from China, but 94%. So these products have no nicotine product standardization. It's very important that we note this. We have absolutely no accountable chemical composition of any of these devices. Not Juul Labs, not Philip Morris, none of them. So the unregulated sale that happens in India via the internet is 99.3%, which means we are dealing with a product of which we know not the quality, not the purity, not the provenance, which sells purely through the grey market on the internet. So there is no licensing of the companies that sell e-cigarettes in India, none. And these are unmonitored online sales. What is the impact on the youth of e-cigarettes? It's potentially disastrous. So due to a lie that these cigarettes are safe, they've become a giant gateway drug for children as young as 12 to use. So the average age of a conventional combustible tobacco smoker in America is 38 years old. The average age of an e-cigarette user is 17 years old. This is a very frightening thing, with 70% of e-cigarette users saying that they were 15 years old when they first tried an e-cigarette. So at these ages, the long-term consequences of brain development are stalled. The New England Journal of Medicine, which is a very famous and recognized journal, has shown that of those who smoked e-cigarettes rather than those who didn't smoke, percentage of learning disorders were up by 28%. So there is absolutely no evidence to show that e-cigarettes cause a cessation of smoking normal cigarettes. According to a Philip Morris industry-backed study, smoking in America has risen every single year, year on year since 1954, right? And e-cigarettes, which were introduced in America since 2004, have also increased year on year. So if both have increased year on year, then how is the advent of one leading to the demolition of another? So the study by the Royal College of Physicians in London shows that of those people who smoke e-cigarettes, 70% of e-cigarette smokers smoke conventional cigarettes simultaneously, which means that it really makes very little difference in terms of replacing one. So the Indian Council of Medical Research has put out a very succinct and important study where they've said that the introduction of an unproven product in the context of a declining trend in tobacco consumption and multiple measures being taken to achieve tobacco control would be highly questionable. So what is the reason for the timing of this ban? I heard people before say that what is the reason for the timing of this one? I'll tell you the reason. The reason for the timing of this ban is that prevention is better than cure. Yes, we have tobacco, 120 million smokers in India, that's true. The point is, do we want to introduce another gateway drug for children? Sir, Juul Labs and Philip Morris, which have not entered India, and Dr. Saab knows this very well, they have earmarked 250 crores and 550 crores in the years 2020 to 2022 to establish India as their greatest frontier market for e-cigarette distribution. So this is the time to get into this market and stop this incoming menace. Yes, it's true that 16 states have banned this product, and I read the Central Drug Standard Control Organization edict. It's a very strong circular calling for a blanket ban. I don't want to get into the imprisonments and the bans that's known to all. What are the other approaches of other countries towards e-cigarettes? Sir, the WHO framework for tobacco invited in 2014 all its signatories to ban and restrict e-cigarettes. Singapore, Brazil, Philippines, etc. have banned e-cigarettes altogether. Over 30 countries like Mexico and Thailand have practically banned them, with 98 other countries putting a strong regulatory approach, restricting their supply, advertising, etc. I want to get into what one or two countries have specifically done. So the UK has opposed the ban on e-cigarettes. But I read the science on this, so I'm not just used to speaking like this. So the Royal College of Physicians report states, and I want to quote this, nicotine is not in itself a hazardous drug. It is unlikely that nicotine contributes to the morbidity caused by smoking. So this is an extremely questionable scientific premise. This is saying that nicotine is not bad for you, and I want to know whether the tobacco lobby has paid for this or not. I mean, this is crazy to me. And I want to know that if countries believe that nicotine consumption is not a risk, right? Should we allow our Indian populace to be a guinea pig in this experiment till they determine whether nicotine is or isn't bad for you? Sir, in the same Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health report, it states, the lab experiments have shown, and this is very important, that e-cigarettes contain twice the amount of heavy metals and chemicals, namely diacetyl, than normal cigarettes, and double the amount of harmful effluents. This is the most significant work that is done in this field. So the same report by the UK College of Royal Physicians states that e-cigarettes help people who cannot quit. But if you read the full study, it contradicts itself. Because where in the first paragraph it says this, in the fourth paragraph the same study states that out of 900,000 people who attempted to stop smoking and switch to e-cigarettes, 780,000 returned to full-scale conventional smoking in a year. So really it is not any kind of conventional substitute. So I want to make a psychological argument. Almost everybody in the world knows about the dangers of smoking, more or less. My question is, just by the introduction of X product, which has X amount of marketing and questionable science, will it lead to a person who's taken a heavy-duty psychological decision to be a proper smoker to give it up? I mean, this is something I'd like to really ask the House. Sir, the speaker before me mentioned that the European Union has created a tobacco products directive, it's true, which states that maximum nicotine concentrations should be there. But what he omitted to state is that not a single country in the world has been able to put in place a maximum nicotine concentration. You can put on paper whatever you like, but if it's not there in the actual device, what use is it? No country in the world has been able to put a maximum nicotine concentration, none. My contention, sir, is that nobody has been able to put this in earnest, and as 90% of e-cigarette sales are via the internet and semi-hidden, how will you enforce it even if you put it into law? The second thing, sir, is that in the Philippines, where they banned this, right, why did they ban it? Because a mysterious lung injury killed 47 people. In America, in the state of Virginia, which is the largest tobacco grower in America, which you know, 2,000 people went to court in one court, but over all the states, the 50 states, saying that over 2,000 people who had smoked e-cigarettes for 2 years under the age of 21 had been seriously afflicted by it in a mysterious illness which they had not been able, which Columbia Presbyterian had not been able to as a hospital ascertain. So my question is, in a country like India, medical data is neither centrally procured, nor processed, nor documented, nor analyzed. In a country like America, if they could not tell you about the dangers of a mysterious illness, in a country like India, these deaths and figures will not and cannot be traced. So can we expose our populace to the same illness? Sir, Brazil, the National Health and Family Welfare Ministry of Brazil has put a health study which shows that tobacco substitution products act as a catalyst for people under the age of 15 to be part of a social trend and be introduced to smoking. Incidentally, we should take Brazil seriously because they are the first and the only country in the world to achieve the target reduction of 30% in smoking according to the Global Action Plan of WHO. They're the only country that's achieved it. And they have banned tobacco substitution products. So at an age where young children are not prone to thinking the ramifications of every action, should we be introducing this to them? So in a very dangerous trend, what are the 4 products that Juul Labs is launching in India next year if the government had not brought this bill into the House? What were the products? Banana flavor, strawberry flavor, melon flavor, and apple flavor. I want to ask this House, is this not an absolute way of introducing young children into cigarettes? Which grown man is going to smoke a strawberry flavored cigarette or an apple flavored cigarette? Certainly nobody that I know. So my question is that, sir, we cannot have a product where it seems that the product is fun and child-friendly. For God's sake, we're talking about a treated tobacco product here, a nicotine product here, a chemical product here, of which we don't even know which chemical composition there is. So my only suggestion to the Honourable Minister and the government is, while this is a highly positive step, the speaker before me spoke about the tobacco smokers, that there are very many. Yes, there are very many. And he also suggested that we should ban tobacco. My question is, and I don't want to disagree in principle, sir, there are 130 million farmers today who farm tobacco. Are you going to put them on the streets by banning tobacco? I mean, let's speak things which we can do reasonably. Let's not just speak in the air here, right? We're going to take 130 million farmers and strip them of all their assets and all their technical wherewithal. I mean, I find it extraordinary. But what we can do, what my suggestion is, for 3 years, the taxes on tobacco have not been adjusted for inflation. Right now, they are 53%. If we can take them to the WHO standard of 75%, that I think would be a step in the right direction. So smoking bidis, as we know, is something that hasn't been touched for a long time because they are seen to be a simple pleasure available to the poor.
Honourable Member,
but my question is, yes.
You are suggesting that the Honourable Health Minister would suggest to his Commerce Minister to increase the tax slab of tobacco.
Sir, this is not my my duty to suggest. I can only put forth a suggestion as a Lok Sabha MP. But I can say this, sir, that when we're talking about BDs, smoking BDs costs the Indian Exchequer in health cost 80,000 crores a year. It costs 80,000 crores a year, but the revenue gained is 417 crores a year. Now, there are those that will say that the tax shouldn't be increased. That's one of the simple pleasures to the poor. However, my question to the House is, by keeping very low taxes on BDs, are we helping the poor or are we helping kill the poor? This is the question I want to ask the House, right? The reason I've focused on taxation is because I think to ban, frankly, tobacco is something that is not possible, so I don't want to speak in the air. I will just lastly, sir, say we have a national goal of having a healthy population and a productive workforce. When I look at this ordinance, I am proud that we have taken a step towards looking at the direct costs and externalities which are crushing this national goal. Let us not introduce yet another addiction and hazardous habit into our youth without having the need for it. We may not know the chemical poison it carries, but we can definitely clearly see into the future as to the social poison that it brings with it. Thank you, sir.